What's your last name again?
Vance, V-A-N-C.
Vance? Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 4th episode of my Best of the Frankie Slauson Show. And to really wrap up the December Best of show, I got a guy that, he's a monster TV host, he's a commercial guy, and he's one heck of an animator, Craig Vance. Welcome to the show.
No, thank you very much.
And for some people who are maybe familiar with the stuff that he does on the animation part anyway, his TV host name is Ormon Grimsby. So
That's right, yep. He's Undertaker for the Already Undertaken.
Yeah, there you go. And how I was able to get a hold of Craig here is a while back ago he did an episode of Mikey's Adventures for all you people who are familiar with Mike Massey of Raleigh, North Carolina, and Mike happens to be a friend of mine. So, with worst come to worst here, I got a hold of Craig here and on his MySpace page, and like I say, welcome to the show. It's a pleasure and honor to have somebody of your stature to come down the radio.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
So now, tell some of the listeners, what is it that you actually do? Just whether it's your TV host stuff or your commercials. We'll talk about a little bit of everything that you do, but give people kind of a background of what your job is.
Well, the TV thing is like you mentioned, a horror host show that's a throwback to the 50s and 60s, where we show an old B horror movie every week, and then it's hosted by a ghoulish host, in our case, Ormon Grimsby, and he does little bits on the show, and we have kind of different characters that come on the show and kind of surround him and fill out his world, and then and then we show the B horror movies, and we've been doing that for about a year and a half in Raleigh, North Carolina, around North Carolina. We just started showing the program in Durham maybe 6 months ago, and then are set to air in Henderson in the early part of next year. So it's growing bit by bit, but it's definitely something that's a throwback. It's got a real nostalgic feeling, and it's all in black and white.
Oh, yeah.
But we have a lot of clips and images from the show on our website, not on MySpace. And the website is mcftv.com if anybody wanted to check out what I look like and what the show is kind of about.
Now, with that, since you are an animator, did you draw the picture of yourself or that you have on your page?
There's a couple different images, and I did most of the artwork. We've got a new T-shirt that's out and available now, and I worked with another artist, Chris Sear, local guy, and he did the original concept for that, and we kind of went back together and kibitzed it until we came up with the look for that. And then we've got some other artwork on our MySpace page that we will have posters and possibly T-shirts made of in the future by an artist, Eric Pigors, out of California. And he's actually pretty famous for doing a line called Toxic Tunes.
Okay.
And he does his own T-shirts and print work and books and stuff like that. And we've been working with him on a number of projects recently. And we also try and do stuff on monster pop culture, in addition to showing the old movies, whether it has to do with artists locally or someone who's doing something interesting in the genre, either movies or cartoons or comic books or music like rockabilly or surf.
Yeah.
And we've got a band, the Ghastly Ones, out of California, a really cool surf band, and they let us use some of their music for our theme song, and we've showed off some of their videos and stuff like that. And then other artists we've worked with, we did an interview with Bernie Wrightson last fall, and like I mentioned, Eric Pigors of Toxic Tunes we've done an interview with, and a couple of filmmakers, Brian and Lawrence Avenett Bradley out of California, who just did their first big horror film. We had them on the show last year. So, we try to mix it up and do some interesting stuff, not just the old B movies,
Oh yeah,
Try and give exposure to other artists.
Oh, that's cool. And B movies now, those are movies that you wouldn't normally see anywhere else, huh?
That's right. Well, the stuff we show used to be pretty prevalent, and now with cable, that kind of killed a lot of it, and so I think it's interesting to kind of be bringing some of that back,
Yeah. Well, yeah. Has horror always been something of an interest to you, like growing up as a kid, or?
Yeah, I'm a freak. I grew up in the 70s, and this stuff was kind of really big in the 60s is when it had its heyday, but, it was still going in the 70s, and every area, I mean, is going to get back a ways, but I date myself, but before cable, every area, we only had like 4 channels, 6, 7 channels maybe at the most.
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
I remember actually having a black and white TV, but anyway, every area had their own horror host, and it was a pretty common thing, it'd be like the weatherman or some TV personality newscaster during the day, and at night, during the weekends or something, would do this horror host gig for the networks, and, they'd own a library of films that they maybe purchased and had the rights to show, and so they would use that as cheap programming instead of, because this was even before syndication,
Yeah.
And so I grew up with that stuff, and I grew up in Detroit, Michigan, and we had a couple of different hosts. We had Sir Graves Ghastly and The Ghoul, and if you were young, like I was, you were into Sir Graves, and if you were older, a little hipper, you were into The Ghoul, because he was kind of irreverent and blew stuff up, and he's still around, and a lot of people remember him fondly, but he was a little over my head growing up, so I watched Sir Graves, and he always had these really cool monster movies, and that was what kind of planted the seed, I guess, that I always had the interest in monsters and monster movies.
Oh wow, that's pretty creative. Just being able to bring back the old days of of horror movies, even when it's not even Halloween, when it's just any time of the year, and do you got anything planned for the holidays for your horror deal?
We're trying to do a special show for Christmas. I don't know if we'll get it done. The holidays have been kind of rugged, but we have 30 shows done, and we were doing them every week.
Yeah.
But lately we've kind of gotten off track. But what we would like to do this year is kind of a Christmas Carol kind of vibe, where the host gets visited by one of the ghosts of Christmas past, except it's a ghost from his world. And then we'll be showing a movie. And then this next segment, we're going to have a really cool interview / documentary on a local artist here in Raleigh, Tom Keebler.
Okay.
He is a sculptor of the bizarre, I guess you would say. He does these life-size sculptures out of silicone of kind of like sideshow freaks.
Okay.
And he's been featured in Spectrum publication the last 4 years, I think, 4 years, which is a publication that shows off the work of commercial artists throughout the year, the best of the work throughout the year, be it illustration or advertising or whatever. Well, he's been in that the last 4 years, and he lives in the area, and we stopped by his studio and got to shoot a lot of footage of his creatures and stuff like that. So I can't wait for that to show that to everyone. That's going to be really great, and hopefully we'll have that online as soon as it airs.
Oh yeah, that'd be kind of cool. I mean, I have yet to see. Well, I see little clips of your stuff, and but it would be cool to actually just put on like an actual show. Have it be like a webcast, because
yeah.
Now, other things that you do too, since I said we're going to talk about other things in your profession too. First of all, Mike Massey told me that you were in Batman Forever. What part did you play in that movie?
Excuse me. Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah. Well, that was '96, and at the time I had gone out to LA and I was working as a writer at an effects shop out there, and basically a production assistant. And what we were doing is the frozen people from Batman Forever, the props. And so I got to work in the fiberglass department a little bit. And at one point, they didn't have the actors that they needed for the frozen people for their bodies. So they cast a number of us in the shop, literally and figuratively. They cast our bodies. And so there's a scene where there's these security guards that get frozen. I think they're cops or security guards, and they get frozen by Mr. Freeze. And one of those guys is my body, but they had an actor's head that they actually cast out of silicone. And so I guess that's my one Hollywood claim to fame.
Well, what the heck? I mean, it's a start to something so beautiful, you know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, with that too, Craig here, for those of people who are familiar with TV commercials and advertising, and even probably the ones that get sick of seeing commercials, because, you know, there's a lot of people around that say, God, these freaking commercials, they keep playing, you know, and whatever. This guy is kind of responsible for some of those commercials that you see. The Chester McCheese, I think that's right, Chester's Cheeto, the Cheetos commercial.
Yeah.
The Gillette razors, and what do you do? You're the animator for that.
We do. I work for a company out of New York, even though I'm in North Carolina. We have a satellite office down here in Raleigh. So we do a lot of animation, computer animation, and effects work for commercials. And some of the commercials that we've worked on have been Chester Cheetos and some Visa stuff. A lot of the GE commercials where you see dancing animals. There's one with the dancing elephant that our company worked on, and then let's see, a lot of stuff like that. A lot of kind of invisible effects work, if you'd like water and fire and that sort of stuff. But we also do the character stuff. Trying to think some of the bigger ones. Dairy Queen, we've done some of those. There was a spot last spring with a couple of monsters making monster cookies in the kitchen. And the heads had to be, they were full-body foam monsters, foam latex, but the faces weren't articulated enough, and so they wanted to go in and actually do lip sync and have the monsters talk. So we actually created replacement CG heads that went over on top of the practical heads and had them talk to each other. And we did some stuff with another Dairy Queen commercial with a Fabio-type model. He's holding an actress, and a husband comes home, and she's in the arms of this great big hunk, and his hair is blowing in the wind. And I forget what the tagline is, but something along the lines that deflates the wife's fantasy, and the Fabio-type model's hair, all of a sudden the wind stops blowing, and his hair swings down around his shoulders. Well, the hair is all fake. It's all CG, which you'd never know unless, it's pointed out. But we do a lot of that kind of stuff.
Are you responsible for the Geico commercials at all, or?
No, we don't handle that account, but that's some really, really slick stuff.
Because one of the instructors over here at Pioneer 9.1, because this is a college radio station as well as an actual radio station, had a question. He wanted to know who does the voice for the Geico. Gecko.
I don't know. I couldn't say.
But anyway, and you've handled some big accounts. And what are some of your favorite commercials that you've done?
I like that Dairy Queen one. That's pretty good.
Because it has to do with monsters, right?
Yeah, exactly. We did one for GE about a year ago, and it was another monster one where it looks like Godzilla's coming out of the water, but it's like a generic lizard. And these little kids come running along the beach, and it's kind of set up where they're not in the same shot, so you can't tell scale. And it turns out that the lizard's like maybe 3 inches tall, and the little kids pull them up and are swinging them around and laughing at them. And we did some stuff where we augmented the costume and added like a frill collar and like a spiny headpiece that was all CG, and that was pretty neat because the compositing came out really well. You'd never be able to tell what was fake and what was real, you know.
Oh yeah, and you know, for you to get some ideas, you know, of future commercials. I know everything's going digital and computer wise, but if you ever go, I don't know if you've ever been to this site before. It's called RetroJunk.com.
Sounds familiar. I think I might have come across it.
It's a site where you can watch old commercials, old TV show intros, old movie trailers from the 70s, 80s, and 90s. And that's kind of what I do on my show. Once in a while, I'll play a classic commercial or whatever that's no longer in use, you know. But it's stuff I remember growing up with. And they have every type of genre that you would want, from whether it be cars or food or whatever. You may have to check that out again and just maybe it might help you in a future idea or something like that.
Yeah, I'll definitely have to check it out. There's a lot of content. We work mostly with public domain content on a monster creature feature on the show I produce.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of commercials I'd love to get hold of, like the old Vincent Price Shrunken Head toy commercial that he did. But so much of that stuff is just lost. You know?
Like what decade did he do that at? Or?
It had to have been the 70s.
Okay, you might, if you check out that retrojunk.com, they have a search engine, so you can actually type in what you want, and if you type in Vincent Price, you might be able to find it.
Okay, cool. I'll give that a shot. That sounds neat. Thanks.
Yeah, well, any way to help. I mean, you're helping me, so what the hell? I'll help you too. Now, with everything else that you do on your monster creature feature, have you ever had like any big time special guests at all, like old monster actors at all, or anybody that you looked up to?
Not too many actors. Mostly it's just artists that I've kind of searched out, and the cool thing is that most of the people that I've kind of reached out to show the show to and maybe do some, you know, cross promotion with have been really receptive. They love the idea.
Oh yeah.
Dave Hartman is another artist that we've showed a couple of his films, and was a Disney animator. Now I think he's pretty much freelance, but he does his own stuff on the side and illustration, and he did a lot of he works with Rob Zombie a lot, and excuse me, he did all the illustration inside, I think, the last Rob Zombie CD, and he just did a video with him, but we showed a couple of his live-action films that he has done, and they're a lot of fun. So I really enjoy working with other creative people, you know, trying to do their own thing.
Oh, definitely. Now, I went to the retrojunk.com real quick. I typed in Vincent Price. They have an old game called Hangman that he did the commercial for. So
yeah. I remember that one.
Yeah, it's right on there. So now, when growing up as a kid, did you have any other interests or hobbies?
What I really wanted to do was get into special effects and makeup special effects, that sort of thing, and sculpting and stuff like that. And I did that, you know, growing up. You're 10, 11, 12 years old, you know, before video games and all of that. You know, kids were, you know, getting their hands in mud and drawing and sculpting and doing all kinds of stuff in their basements. And I sculpted, you know, took a lot of sculpting courses and went to art college and all that, and really wanted to get into that. But the scene, you know, in the 80s seemed like it was the real heyday for monster movies, and, you know, American Werewolf and The Fog and Howling and The Thing, and all those really pushed the boundaries of what makeup effects could do. And then you had all the films that kind of imitated those in the mid-80s, and then kind of got more into the slasher stuff later. But seemed like the bottom of that all kind of fell out in the early 90s, and, you know, I hate to say it, in the advent of CG CG, everything kind of went and was going that way. It seems things have balanced out much more in the industry where the two technologies are really augmenting each other, and that people are learning that not one or the other isn't going to be the end all be all. But back in the early '90s, when I was trying to find a job, and it was really difficult, so I kind of went back to school and honed my skills and got into the CG end of it, which was booming at the time.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, ultimately, what I really like to do is tell stories, and I really would like to direct, specifically horror films. I mean, I don't have any aspirations beyond that.
Oh yeah.
A lot of people just want to direct and tell stories, but I love horror, and I would like to take the next leap and do some shorts and a film.
Well, you know that Rob Zombie is going to, I think, be directing the Halloween 9 movie, I believe.
Yeah, I read that.
Who knows? Maybe you might have an opportunity.
Yeah. I mean, I look at the Monster Creature feature as kind of a stepping stone to the next thing, and it's a lot of fun.
Well, people are going to look at that and say, this kid's got something. I mean, you have a passion for what you do. A lot of people have forgotten stuff like that, and when you bring back to the past, and it's like, oh, geez, this is actually pretty cool.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are really hungry.
Yeah, obviously you're gonna get noticed somehow, some way from doing that.
Yeah, I hope, and people, are responding really favorably. I mean, because they get it, they know what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be silly. It's supposed to be cheesy. It's not supposed to be something that's really slick,
Yeah.
It is bad, but it's supposed to be bad. It's supposed to be funny. And the people who get it really like it, and the people I find that didn't grow up with it and don't understand what it's about don't get it. But, that's fine. It's not for everyone. But I find that I really thought when I started doing it that, like, the college audience would be much bigger than it is. And what it turns out is that, and I don't know why I'm surprised, but the audience that really responds to it is my age group and older, obviously the people who grew up with it and kind of remember it from their childhood,
Oh, yeah.
And those are the guys who are like, oh, yeah, geez, I remember the guy I grew up with back in 1965. We had Goulardi or whatever, But
well, yeah, and then it's kind of too, well, you said you were raised in the 70s. Well, I was raised in the 80s, and I was born in 1983, so I'm only 23 years old. So
yeah.
Horror, I don't know. For me anyway, even though this interview is not really much about me, but for me, it's horror. I'm not really huge on horror, I'll be honest, but I'm trying to get kind of into it. I don't like the gross horror, like the See No Evil or the Hostel or whatever, because I think they're repeating themselves too much.
Yeah, I agree. I like the more imaginative stuff. And
like the Freddy and Jason stuff, like the Freddy versus Jason.
Yeah, I like the stuff, the old Corman stuff from the 50s and 60s, Edgar Allan Poe stuff, Mask of the Red Death, and of course the classics, Wolfman and Frankenstein and Dracula and all that stuff.
How about like the Exorcists and all that stuff? You like that?
Yeah, that's probably one of the best horror films ever made. That scared the living hell out of me when I was. I mean, I was too young to see that in the theater, but that scared the heck out of me when I was, 12, and I think I saw it for the first time on TV, and I was like, oh my God, what is this?
Are you a type of guy that gets into like the high definition big screen TVs and the surround sound when you watch a horror film at all, or?
Well, I used to be. Now I got a kid, and all that kind of went to the wayside. The disposable income is no more.
Okay. Well, I mean, like if you really want that feel nowadays, and because everything's going digital, with DVDs or whatever, and even now Blu-ray DVDs and high definition DVDs or whatever, the way to go is DVD, because you watch a movie like you're big on horror. Okay, get yourself a movie that's really going to freak you out, and watch it on a nice TV and the surround sound and really crank it up. And boy, I tell you,
Yeah.
that definitely freaked out me.
Well, I personally, I mean, I had an idea, and I thought, you know, it's so expensive to produce a film, and getting back to wanting to direct my own film, and we shoot everything on digital video. We shoot everything at 24p on a Panasonic DVX 100, so it's a little better quality than what you might be used to seeing on TV or especially public access. But it gives us a really nice quality, and a lot of low-budget films are shooting digitally now because it's so expensive to process and transfer film. And then if you're not even shooting for theatrical release, you're going direct to DVD. I mean, sure, there's inherent quality in shooting 35 that you're not going to get in any other medium. But, I mean, if it's going right to DVD, why not shoot for that medium? And to that end, I thought, back in the early 80s, there were a lot of companies that actually created films just for the videotape market, which was brand new back then. And now it seems that the DVD market is so huge. I mean, it's just gigantic that, it seems like there's a niche there that you could shoot. You could create a production company where you were shooting 4 or 5 films a year just to distribute on DVD and set up a business model that way.
Oh, yeah.
And just to get them in the shelves on Best Buy. But the problem is that distribution is so tight that most of the companies, the Walmarts, the Best Buys, the Barnes & Nobles, will not look at you unless you're under, a Time Warner umbrella. So that's kind of the rub.
Yeah.
There are a number of independent guys like Charles Band, and he shot like a lot of those really crappy 80s movies like Doll Man and, was it Puppet Master?
Okay.
He did all those with the idea of, he'd set up his own production type company where it was the same people and they worked with the same cast over and over, and, it was like a family, and you just churn out these movies, 5, 10 a year, direct to video, and, you were able to self-perpetuate and make a small business out of it. But apparently even he's hurting these days with the stranglehold on distribution. But I still think there's something there, where you could set up, a niche and cater to that market. I don't know, maybe there's something with the Internet, if there was some way that you could recoup your money if people, were willing to pay to watch something that way,
Oh, sure. And, well, I tell you what, we're almost out of time, but first of all, I'm not going to let you go yet, but I want to, first of all, thank you for letting me interview you. I know, I hope I wasn't too much of a bother,
Oh, no, not at all. Thank you for having me on the show.
And I know Mike, told me that you gotta kind of calm down when I'm trying to get a hold of you. I realize you're a busy guy, and, your time is very limited, but I want to thank you for having me or let me interview you. And the last thing I'm going to do, or that I normally do on the show, is have you, or if you've heard my show in the past, you say who you are, who you're listening to, and what station you're listening to.
Okay. And
my name's Frankie. Frankie Slauson, and then you're listening to Pioneer 90.1. So.
Okay.
So whenever you're ready.
All right. Hey there, this is Craig Vance from Monster Creature Feature, and you're listening to Frankie on Pioneer 90.1.
All right, and I appreciate it, and you have a good holiday. And
you too.
And once this, what I do too is I always put my internet show or my shows not only on the radio, but I also put them on my MySpace page. So once I get this update on my MySpace page, I'll send you a copy. Okay.
Fantastic.
All right, cool. Have a good day and have a happy holiday, man.
You too. Thank you very much.
All right, bye. All right, thank you, man. And like I say,